with joy. I ask of you, Lord, for it to be you speaking through me. Anything that comes out of my mouth, let it be you using me. So that this is what the youth needs to hear. This is what anybody needs to hear. Oh, Lord, I just ask of you, Lord. Fill them up with your presence, Lord, because your presence is so felt here. Let it be felt in the rooms, in the cars that they are, where they're listening, Lord. Oh, ask for chains to be broken, hearts to be opened, to receive your word, and mind to be exposed to just comprehend your greatness. Oh, Lord, you're great and you're almighty. Oh, we exalt your name, Lord. Oh, we pray, Lord, in your name. We give you all the praise and all the worship. God bless you, youth. Or just God bless you, anybody that's watching. We started Thursday Thought a little bit different. Nevertheless, this is a Thursday's Thought. And I just ask of you to open your hearts to receive what the Lord has for each and one of you guys. He spoke to me, and I was speaking to a friend, how hard it is to live a day-to-day life with the pandemic. How it's easy to say so much, but to actually live it is a little harder. It's a lot harder, but we can get through it with the grace of God and with His strength. Like I said, this Thursday thought's going to be a little bit different. We aren't going to go into a Bible verse, but everything is Bible based. But the title for this Thursday's thought is a little long, I feel like, for me, but it is victory. It is not what it looks like, nor what it seems. Outside the Bible, what comes to mind when you think of victory? When you think of the word victory, when you think of victory, what comes to mind? Mine is football. When it goes to football, then it goes to the Super Bowl. When it goes to the Super Bowl, it goes to the Patriots. I don't go for the Patriots. I don't watch football like that anymore. But that's honestly what I think when it comes to victory. When it comes to looking for something in the Bible, it goes to many stories, but one is Samson. And in the beginning, it was like Samson, like he died at the hands of his enemies. But we're kind of see through it, and we're gonna see how he was a pretty victorious man in his situations. We're gonna be looking through Judges 13 through 16. We're gonna be kind of jumping around through verses. We're not gonna read all of it, but we all know Samson's story. We know that his mom, an angel appeared to his mom and told her that she couldn't eat anything unclean and she couldn't have wine. or any of those kinds of drinks, because he was going to be set apart, and no razor would go through his head because he's going to be a Nazarite. From then we see that Samson had a plan. He didn't just have a plan, he had a plan with a victory. We're just gonna have to see his victories throughout his life in the Bible. Kind of, let's just say he had a game plan from the get-go. Even before he was even born, his life was already planned. And like I said, we're gonna see his victories through as we read the Bible. And there was when he was walking to go see who he wanted to become his wife, he saw a young lion. He faced a young lion, actually. He didn't just see it, he faced a young lion. And we see in Judges 14, 15, we see that it says, 14:6, when it said that the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him, so that he tore the lion apart with his bare hands, as he might have torn a young goat. So for me, a goat's gonna be hard for me to tear open, to be honest. But Samson's strength was pretty great, and to compare a goat with a lion, it's like a big difference. And they're saying how powerful the Lord's Spirit came down onto Samson. And we see in this situation that came up, he wasn't alone, because the Spirit of the Lord would not come over you if you aren't walking along with the Lord. And then also we see, because on verse 14, chapter 14, verse 14, we see because he faced that lion, he came up with a riddle. The riddle being, out of the eaters something to eat, out of the strong something sweet. Like I said, that was on Judges 14:14. He had that riddle, and he came with that riddle when he presented the riddle, and he told him, I will give you 30 sets of clothes if you give me the answer to the riddle. They said, why are you gonna come and just take things that are from us? Because they went to his wife to tell him that, why are you gonna come and have your husband just take things from us if we know we won't be able to solve it? So they told him, coax your husband to tell you what the riddle is, and you tell us. So she did that. She got the answer, which the answer to the riddle is, what is sweeter than honey and what is stronger than a lion? Obviously we know, because when he went back when he went back, he saw the carcass of the lion, and in the carcass of the lion he saw the honey, the beehive of the honey. So that's where the riddle came from, and that's in Judges 14:18, the answer to the riddle. So what she did, she told them the answer to the riddle. She didn't just tell him the answer to the riddle. She kind of went off with, I guess, you could say, nowadays, one of Samson's groomsmen. She went off with him. And so the next day, Samson looks for his wife, and the father of his wife, so his father-in-law, was like, oh, she kind of just left with one of your groomsmen. Of course, he's going to be upset. His wife went off with one of his groomsmen. And that's in that part, it's in Judges 15. So because he was so mad, he got foxes, and he tied them by the tail, and he sent them off to the fields, to the vineyards and the olive groves, and burned them down. That's how mad he was. His wife, you could say like now, it's like she ran off with someone else. And that's why he thought he could get even with the Philistines, because she did that. And obviously they were outraged, and she did what she did. They ended up killing her. They burned her. And after that, he went to a cave. And that's where the Philistines found him. They found him in the cave, and they were like, okay, we're going to tie you up and we're going to take you. He's like, but if you tie me up, I don't want you guys to kill me. And then they were like, okay, we're not going to kill you, but we'll tie you up and we'll take you. And he let them tie him up because he was that strong. He just ripped them off. He just took his restraints off. And it says, and we can see it in Judges 15:14, when it happens, and it says again, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. So the ropes that binded him in his arms, they just ripped. And they said they ripped like it was like regular yarn, like anything, whatever. But that's how strong Samson was. But yet again, we see him in another situation where God is with him, where the Lord is with him, and it says that the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. So we see it in the previous, from 13, 14, and 15. In 14, it also, when he had to take the 30 clothes, he took it from the men, but the Spirit of the Lord came on him, and that's what he did. And we see it. And then if you start reading a little further on 15, on verse 18, it says, you have given your servant this great victory. That was his thank you prayer, his appreciation, because he knew if it wasn't for God, and if it wasn't for him being set apart, he wouldn't have the Spirit of the Lord fall upon him in such a powerful way and be victorious in these situations. So, and then as we see in Judges 16, he was still set out to be killed. But that's when he found Delilah. He went with Delilah, and they found where he was, and they said, at dawn, we're going to get him and kill him. But he woke up before that. He woke up. He didn't just wake up and just like leave. He woke up and he took the gates of the door, and just walked 20 miles uphill. And he had him on his back, and he walked him. And they said he put them to face Hebron. And the reason why he did it was to intimidate them. Like, if you really read in depth to it, it was to intimidate and remind them who Samson was and how strong he was. So when he left, she was there, and she ended up making a pact with the people that were out to look for him, to kill him. And she asked the question, we all know she asked the question, where does your strength come from? And he gave her answers, but they weren't the correct answers. She did it 3 times. She was outraged, saying, how could you say you love me if you're not really telling me? And to the point, he told her his secret, that his strength was his hair. But we know it wasn't his hair. It was the pact that he had with God from birth. He was set apart, and he was caught, and he was tied up, and he was taken to the Philistines, and they cut his hair, they shaved him, and they gouged his eyes. That's kind of where people are just like, but how was Samson victorious? I'll let you know why Samson was victorious. Because in all of that, it says that his hair actually started growing again. It is in Judges 16, where it says, Judges 16:22, and it says, but the hair on his head began to grow again after it has been shaved. That, to me, it comes like as a symbol as, although we went through something and we probably feel like we have no more faith, and we just see a little bit of something, and then our faith starts growing again. Our faith starts becoming bigger. That's kind of what it was for Samson. His hair started growing as soon as after it was shaved. After it was shaved, it said on 22, it started to grow again after it was shaved. But so they shaved it. They took its eyes out, and it wasn't just that. He was going to be a sacrifice to the god of the crops, which was the god, which it was called Dagon. That was their god, and they were going to celebrate, as a sacrifice, and then they were going to say, our God has delivered Samson, our enemy, into our hands. Little did they know that Samson was asked to be put into the center pillars. And it just kind of overwhelms me when we think that we're at our lowest and we cry out to God. That was Samson. He was at his lowest and he cried out, and God heard him because he cried out. And his prayer, Samson's prayer is in verse 28, saying, Sovereign Lord, remember me. Please, God, strengthen me one more time and let me, with one blow, get revenge on the Philistines for my 2 eyes. He was in the center pillars, so he, like it said, with one blow. And it said that he killed more Philistines he did that day with him dying than he did in his entire life. It was destined for him to die with the Philistines. Sometimes it might not seem like what we are going through really is being victorious. Like I said, being victorious or being in victory is not what it seems. It's not what everybody makes it seem. Like when we were in the Stanley Cup, like for hockey, they did the parade, they did all of it, they celebrated it. But we won't really know everything that they went through. All of their practices, all of their time, the sacrifices that they went with their families. We won't really know that unless we're in that situation, unless we are the ones there. Victory is not what it seems. And victory and being victorious is very different for each person. He knew where his strength came from, and it came from God. And he asked God to give him the strength just one more time to kill the Philistines. And he was going to. The Philistines were saying that the gods delivered Samson. No. The Philistines were delivered to Samson. And that was his victory. Although he might have died. But that was a victory. And another story that we can impact us so much more, and that we know it so much more, is Jesus' victory. Jesus' death and his resurrection. We're not going to talk about his 33 years. We're not going to talk about his life. We're going to talk on the last few days that are in the Bible, at least that are detailed, that we know that God went through. And that's in Matthew 26, it was the plot against Jesus when Judas agreed to be the one to turn him in. After that, he was anointed with the perfume. And he had his last supper with his disciples. There's where he told them that one of them is going to betray me. Then he also told Peter that he was going to deny him 3 times before the crow sang. Then he went to go pray. He went off and he went to go pray. We can see that in Matthew 26. And he went to go pray because he felt overwhelmed. And we're able to read it. And it says in Matthew 26:38, it says, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death." He was overwhelmed, and his soul was overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. What do you do when you're overwhelmed? Do you cry out to your Father the way he cried out to his Father? Although he was 100% man, he was also 100% God. He could have ended it. He could have not gone through it. But he knew it had to be done. His heart was hurting, like to the point of death. We can come to him when we're overwhelmed. He knows the feeling. He knows the feeling. And we might not be to the point where we're sweating blood, because he was sweating blood. That's how overwhelmed he was. And in his prayer, he said, we see in 39 where it says, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as your will." That was his prayer. And I was reading in another version of the Bible where it reads, "My Father, if there is any way you can deliver me from this suffering, please take it from me. Yet what I want is not important, for I only desire to fulfill your plan for me." Then an angel from heaven appeared and strengthened him. We see in the different version when it says, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me." And in the other version, it says this suffering. But Jesus isn't asking the Father a way around it, around the situation. He's asking him to keep him alive through the suffering of that night, because he knew what was coming. He knew he was going to be betrayed as soon as he finished praying. He knew that one of his was going to betray him. He said it, but it still hurt because he was man. He knew he was going to be betrayed. He knew he was going to be killed. Like I said, he was man. He was going to feel all these things. Knowing something's going to happen to you doesn't make it less of a situation. Doesn't make you feel less. You're just aware of it. And he was very well aware of how he was going to die. That's why he was overwhelmed. But when he got up the first time and he saw his disciples, he saw that they were sleeping. And he says, "The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." Our spirit is the one that's willing to fight. Our spirit is the one to keep on going. It's our flesh. It's our flesh. It's that desires the not, and it's weak. Like he said, he couldn't have said it any better. And then we just see further along as we read it that Judas kissed him, and that's how they knew who Jesus was. He was betrayed. Then he was mocked. Then he was put next to someone, and they asked, do you want him or do you want Jesus? They didn't want Jesus. They chose Jesus to be crucified. Everything that he's done, everything that he has done throughout his life, and he knew that that was going to come. It didn't make it easier. But he was chosen to be crucified. He was mocked. He was spat on. He was slapped. They gambled for his clothes. When it all happened after that, Judas gave back the money. He's just like, he regretted what he did. He said it wasn't. He kind of came to him where he's like, it wasn't. That didn't fulfill him. We think by leaving Jesus aside, finding where we can find this happiness after we go through certain things. We always go back. We always find a way to go back to Jesus. And the only way, the only reason actually that we can't go back to Jesus is because he had to fulfill this. He had to be crucified. He had to be crucified in such a way where the most gruesome way to describe it doesn't even come close to how it really was. But as he was on the cross, people that would pass by, they were like, you healed people, you saved people, why can't you save yourself? He didn't say anything. Imagine knowing how great you are. Imagine that you can do and destroy everything and anything. But you love humanity, that you want them to be saved. So let it be me that goes through this, so that you can come later. He ended up giving up his spirit after it. And in Matthew 27:52, after he gave up his spirit, the earth shook. There was an earthquake. And the bodies, and then we see in Matthew 27:52, it says, the bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life. That's one of the many victories in the whole transgression that happened. One of the many victories. Like I said, victory isn't what it seems. An outsider looking in, someone that is a non-believer, and sees that's the Jesus you worship, he is hung on a cross. That's what you call victory? Even a believer looking in, it didn't look like victory. Ask the disciples. Where were they? It doesn't look like a victory. If it's not yours, you will not understand it. If it's not yours, if it's not for you, and you overcome it, that's a victory. Others, it might not seem like it, but Jesus being crucified and dying was a victory. Him hanging there. Him hanging there. He gave his spirit to his Father. The earth shook, and then that's when they were like, this was the Son of God. Then you want to believe, right? He didn't stop there. He did not stop there. The greatest victory is that Jesus rose on the third day. He didn't just raise. He gave us everlasting life. What he had to go through for those days, for us to not have just a day, have eternal life. It is one great victory, and it's one that hurts, that he had to go through it for us to come to him that way. But it also at the same time, it brings us joy. It brings us hope that he did it for love. I don't know what you might be going through. You don't know what I'm going through. But you'll come victorious. You'll overcome this and you'll be victorious. There's a situation I'm going through and I'm speaking to a friend about it. And I know the big picture. I know the big picture, and I know that I'll have victory over it. I know it. But I want it. Like, I want God to tell me this is the way you're going to do it. This is how it's going to be done. I want him to tell me it's only going to be a couple weeks or a month, a year, 2 max, but I don't know if it's going to be 2 years max. It might be down 10 years, 15 years. But that I know that I will have my victories. I will have my victory because I know where my faith stands. I know where I put my faith. I know where it comes from. I know where my strength comes from. Although Samson's hair symbolized strength, it was the pact that he made with God. And the Spirit just come over him. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know what you're going through. And sometimes you can feel, I'm gonna speak for experience. When it comes to me, I isolate myself. I don't push people away. I take myself out. And then I isolate myself to the point I don't want to be around people just sit there in my hurt, in my sorrows, in my confusions, and I'm just questioning everything, that doing that just never helps. And then I get so much in my head because I just think about it so much, and I make up these scenarios of what if it doesn't happen, what if this, and what if that, and it's just this whole thing, to the point where I forget whose child I am. I don't forget who my father is in the aspect of how powerful he is. I forget whose I am. Who is my father? My father, the King of Kings. It's like there's this part in Lion King where Simba runs off because he thought because of him his father was killed. Where his uncle Scar told him it's your fault, and he manipulated him to making him think that it was his fault. He believed the lies Scar gave him, so he ran off. He lived far. He didn't live on Pride Rock with his mother, and where he should have been, because his dad was the king of Pride Rock, and then he was going to be the king when his father passed. So he wasn't living as a prince because he believed lies. He ran off, and he was a lion. He was eating bugs because that was the group of friends he had, where they didn't eat what lions would eat. They would eat bugs. So he was kind of just doing what they were doing, and he was eating bugs. Like, and then he saw his reflection in the river, and he thought it was his dad that he saw. But then it came to him, and he's like, I didn't see my dad. It's my father that's in me. That's who I am. I am my father's son. And that part just always gets me. We might forget whose we are. But let's not forget who is our Father. Our Father. The Prince of Peace. The Almighty. The one that can walk on water. My Father who made the heavens and the earth. He made me. If he we might feel like we're at our lowest. We might feel like it's what we're going through. It's never ending, and it's never ending, and it's just one thing after the other. I'm here to tell you I'm here with you, because I think for the past 2 years, it's one thing after another, after another, after another, after another. And I'm just like, God, give me a break, please. Like, and he does give me a break, like a week. But I mean, like, give me a break and stop making me go through these things. But he's like, I do for like a week, and then like something else happens, and I just feel like you can't. When you feel like you can't, it's